Hey guys, welcome on in. Kyrios here, and today we're going to go over my top 5 changes that Honkai Star Rail really needs to make or really should have made coming out of the closed beta. Now, some of these are a little bit more important than others, and none of these are in any particular order. So one isn't better than 5, that's just the order I decided to do them in. So anyways, let's go ahead and kick it off. If you guys can, hit that like and subscribe. We have a lot more guides and tips on this channel for Honkai Star Rail. I'll see you guys out there, and I'll see you when the game goes live. Let's get started. All right, we've talked at length about how much we love the story in Honkai Star Rail. It's put together very well, and it seems to be very concise where it actually moves through the story. Now, there are a few times that it gets a little wordy and a little ridiculous, but those times were few and far between. Now, I do want to say that there's a lot of players out there that do not like story. They just like the gameplay, they want to skip through it, or they just want to watch the cutscenes or the major cutscenes. So for that reason, the one change they should have made is that there's no skip button. This is going to turn a lot of players off. Now, as much as I want to say do not skip the story, because this is what this game is about. It's about story. Even if it's a turn-based game or anything like that, it really is about the story. But I do hear the players out there. I do understand why. And even other games that we play on this channel, like Tower of Fantasy, does have a skip button. So if you don't really care about the story, you should be allowed to skip it and play at your own pace, or maybe go watch the recap off a streamer. So I do feel you on that, and that's hopefully a change that they made. All right, so we're gonna put points 2 and all right, so we're gonna put points 2 and 3 together. Now, the first point that I want to talk about is the beginner banner. If you're used to playing Genshin Impact, or you're really used to playing any gacha game, there's always a beginner banner. And they do this for a reason. It's really to bring you in, catch you, give you a 5-star, something you're happy about, and give you some immediate power in order to enjoy your gameplay, to keep you in the game, to keep you playing. Now, the problem with this game is that the beginner banner is 50 summons. Now, it's technically 40 summons, because you do get a 10% discount if you're summoning in pools of 10 tickets at a time, which I do highly suggest, because 40 summons is way easier than 50 summons. This is a big change from a lot of other games that we have played, and especially from like games like Genshin Impact, where it was only 20 summons. Now, I know it should be noted that you're not guaranteed to get a 5-star, but I still just want to match the 20 summons that it took here. So it's only you have to pull 40 summons until you get your first 5-star, but the drop rates are as low as they are as in Genshin Impact, so your chances of pulling it early are very, very low. You're probably going to go 40 summons in. Now, the biggest problem is that if you don't have a skip button and you are in it just to play and experience it, or to try and get that beginner banner done, it could take you upwards of 150 minutes. It actually took me a lot longer to do it in the beta, because they didn't have the launch progression event where you actually get an additional 10 Star Rail passes at TL5, and you get some more at TL15, and it shouldn't take you that long to get those extra passes. But in order to get about 40 pulls, it's going to take you about 150 minutes of spam clicking through the story. So that means if you're playing the story raw and watching it all, it could take you a whole day, hours, 8, 9. I don't even know. I would have to crunch the numbers, but it would take you a long time in order to get there, in order to get the beginner banner done. That brings us to point number 3, which is the general banner, which does get a free 5-star after 300 summons. Now, I think this is a great feature. I think a lot of other games should implement a feature like this, where you get a 5-star selector after X amount of summons. But we're going to have the same issue that we have, and I hate to relate it back to, G Game or a bunch of other games, but we're going to have the same issue that you have limited banners and then you have the regular pull banner. And after you get through a big majority of the game, you're only going to get about 80 summons on that beginner banner, because that's the amount of free tickets that they're going to give you. And you only get a few tickets a week or every 2 weeks when you're doing some of the weekly or bi-weekly events and login events and all that goodness. And you're really not going to get a whole lot of summons to that beginner banner. Now, maybe they change this with events that are coming out, and you're going to get a lot more, but you can only buy 5 from the shop like you can in some previous iterations of games. So you're really not going to be summoning off that general banner, and you shouldn't really be spending your gems on the general banner either. So the problem is that 300 summons may take you a very, very long time. I'm talking very long time, unless you're dropping money on that, which if you're dropping money on the game, you should be dropping money on the limited characters like 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 and a few of the other new characters coming out, then doing it on the general banner and getting your selector. So I would have liked to seen that cut in half, maybe 150 summons, somewhere around there, maybe 120 summons. That's being a little greedy for me, I know, but just due to the fact with how often you're going to be summoning on that, and the fact that you only get about 80 after completing almost all the story, and maybe when we get the full story, we do have 300 summons, but I still think that should be cut in half, and it would be a nice quality of life change. All right, point number 4 really comes down to Natasha. Now, you're probably wondering, why are you talking about a 4-star character? Well, the game gives you Natasha for free, and she is essentially the only 4-star healer. Now, I know March 7th is a pseudo healer. She's a shield healer, but she does require some constellations, and you can use her. I mean, I've watched some players in the closed beta use her all the way up into the point that they got Natasha and a bunch of other players, or they have 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝙿, or, you know, there's some other exceptions if you have the 5-star. But I really personally liked having a healer, and there was times that you need a healer, especially if you don't want to waste a lot of resources leveling a lot of units. And we'll have a guide on that, on how you optimize which units you should level, so you make sure you don't waste those EXP scrolls or anything like that. But the fact that they give you Natasha for free, but you can't get her until about AR 20, which is a very massive chunk into getting into the game. I'm talking about halfway through the first world. I mean, not the first area, the first world, which is technically the second area. It feels like they could have given it to you earlier. Now, I know that they want you to use the starting characters. I get that. But it really would have been a nice quality of life change if they give it to you earlier, because she is one of the best healers you can get at 4-star, or at least currently in the game. And being able to have a nice healer for some of the fights where you don't want to over level a bunch of characters that you're going to just bench is a really nice quality of life change. All right, number 5. This brings me to the initial gear. So we'll talk about this in more detail in another video on how you get this, but there's going to be these vendors that you can get in each area. There's one in the beginning ship, there's one in the second area, there's one on the second world, and they have some introductory gear. This introductory gear goes a long way into being able to improve your DPS output or your potential to do fights as you go through the game. They give you some nice purple gear or in some nice gear set bonuses. The problem I have is that, why were these randomized? I kid you not, that these 4 set bonuses on these pieces of gear have completely random stats. So that means one person's playthrough might be a lot better than the second person's playthrough. Maybe player number A gets a whole bunch of attack percentage, crit percentage. I'm not talking substats, right? I know that those are random. I'm talking about the primary stat, just like artifact grinding, right? There was no reason for these to be randomized. They could have really made this just staple across the board. I mean, because this is going to be gear you replace anyways. It only helps you for leveling through the campaign. But if you get like really bad, like flat defense or something like that, that's not really going to help you. Even though the gear is going to help you survive some hits, it's not going to help you as much as like a nice set of DPS gear would. So this would have been a really nice change that they could have done. But like, hey, here are the 4 pieces. These are the stats that we think you should have leveling, and everyone gets the same stats, so that player A and player B have the same experience going through the game. I have no idea why they decided to randomize this, and I felt like they could have done it better. All right, guys, that's all I got on my top quality of life change that hopefully they made from the closed beta. These are some of the feedback that I put in to Honkai Star Rail, so hopefully they made these changes. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, if you thought that these are pretty good. If you didn't understand most of them, we'll have videos explaining all of them as we get closer and closer to Honkai Star Rail. I do appreciate you. Once again, hit that like and subscribe. It helps support the channel for free. And take it easy, and fist bump from me to you.